In this video, we're going to learn how to export data from R. I'm going to show you different ways and different types of files that you can save. So if you want to have a look at the video outline in the description of the video, you might want to skip ahead to the type of export that you want to do. Okay, so exporting files. Suppose you've been working in R, you've started with some data, you uploaded it, you manipulated it, and now it's time that you need to save it and export it. So you could perhaps email it or just use the data outside of R in some way. How do you get the data out of R and into some file? I'll show you right now. First, we should probably get started with some data. Let me load up something for you right now. Cool. So I prepared a script for you. I'll put this code in the description so you can work along with me. The first line here is just loading up data, and you could, so long as you have access to the internet, you can load it along with me. So what I've done here is I've created a little data set called data. You'll presumably have something called another name, so be sure to change the name when you export your data. And you can see data is just basically it's a matrix. In this case, it's 4,785 by 9 variables, so it's this large matrix. That's 9 columns wide, and then 4,785 rows down. You will presumably have some other shape or look of your data. And the goal, the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is export this data into a CSV file that you could open up with Excel, or you could put into SAS or SPSS or whatever thing you need to put it in, or an email to work with after that. Great, so you got the data, you load it up, and now it's time to export it. So the first thing to do is set up your working directory. So you need to select the R console, go to File, Change Directory. This is going to define a working directory. I'm going to put it in this directory. Your working directory will be wherever you want the file to be exported to. Select OK. Once you set the working directory, you now need to do this following code. So this is going to be write.csv, and what write.csv is, it takes your data. So remember, I assigned the name data to this file. If you called it something else, you have to call it something else. I called it data. And then file is equal to, and then within 2 parentheses, you need to put the name of the data you want to export. So I could call it, so let's call it, say, exported data. And then that's it. This is going to save the file as a CSV. So when I run this code, if you go back over to the folder here, where before it was empty, I'll just run the code again to show you. Folder's empty. I'm going to press this button to run the code, and now it's exported. So if we open up in Excel, we can see we have loaded that data I created. So first off, remember there are 9 variables, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then the index variable, but it's index counting. Remember there are 4,785 observations exported into a nice little CSV file. Great. And you can do this with any type of data inside R. So what do we have here? Here I'm designating the variable x. I'm assigning it the following value. So C parentheses, I'm calling it this vector equal to all these values. So 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So when I run this line, I've created the variable x that's the vector of these values. We can export this. So I'm going to do write.csv again. Once again, the first section here is what do we want to export? We want to export this thing x. So I'm going to call it, let's call it x data, x vector. And then I'm going to run the line to export it. So once again, I set up the working directory over here to R software whatnot. So when I run this line, it's going to export it to the working directory, and there's the x vector whatnot. So the first column is just an index of each observation. So there were 17 there. Back in R, you could see there were 17 values in here. Link x. Oops. see there's 17. And then in the order, each value is posted here. Now suppose you want to save your file as a different type of file. I showed you the CSV file, the comma separated variable file, but for some reason you may need to save your data as something else. So I'll next show you the space-delineated file. So we're going to use this function. We're changing it slightly. Where before we had write.csv, we're now going to have write.table. And write.table is kind of like the general export function built into R. So what does write.table do? I'm doing question mark write.table. And so long as I have access to the internet, when I press enter, it's going to wait. It tells you write.table is for data output. And it kind of walks you through all the default settings and what you have to fill in here. So you can see X is the object to be written, preferably a matrix or data frame. File equals is what you want to save the file as, so on and so forth. The thing I want to point out here is sep equals. So sep equals space. It implies that we're going to be saving this as a space separated space delineated file. So you can see I kind of set this up already. So write table data is the same thing we loaded at the beginning, and then I'm just calling the name data name dash space dot txt, and then sep equals quotation mark space and quotation mark. So back to the exporting directory. This is our software again, whatnot. You can see there's the two values that we've already exported. I'm going to run this line, and it's going to export the file right there. So you'll see, remember I saved it as a .txt because it's a space separated file. So when we open up this in a notebook, you can see there were the column names, those 9 variables. And then going down here, there are the index terms and all 4,785 of them. You could open this up in Excel, for example, and Excel has a nice little feature to let you open up these types of files. So open. So changing the file type to text file. There's the data. There's the thing we just exported. Next, and then you just make sure you check the box that it's a space separated, and we've loaded up the data. Oh, it looks a little off. They left the first column blank, and so you got to reset the header here. And lastly, we could save it as a tab-delineated file. So for that, we're doing write table. Once again, we're pulling it from data because that's the thing that we want to export. The file name, I'm going to call it as just data name dash tab.txt for text file. And then sep equals, this is the backslash t for tab. So it's saying that we're going to separate all these observations, all the values in each row by a tab. And then I'm adding this extra little thing here. So row names equals false. Back at that help menu, row names equals true. This tells you that row names equals true is the default setting. If you remember that index that we saw, where the first column was the first header column was blank, and then it counted down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was the index column. So this is just saying that when it exports, it's as a default setting, it's going to have that little index column. So by setting row names equals false, it's going to remove that index term. So I'll show you what that means right now. So I'm going to run this to export it. So again, this is our working directory, our software, whatnot. Run the line. Back over here. There it is. So the one we just ran was the space delineated. So here are the little index row column names all the way down. And by setting row names equals false, that's going to remove that. So the one we just did, and you can see there's no index column going down now. So when we load this into, say, Excel or whatever program was, there's the tab, delineated, text. So it's tab delineated. There's no weird offsetting of these columns like we just saw with the space delineated. Great. Well, I hope you found that helpful. We just went through several different ways to export data to make sure the data looks exactly the way you want it to look. If you have any questions, send me a message, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.